Today on the channel, we're going to go all legal and answer a cutting-edge legal question that is apparently on a lot of people's minds. Is it possible to sue yourself for defamation? The answer is... No, it's not. That's why Skojo, this guy, had to threaten to sue me instead. You might remember earlier this year I made a horribly distasteful video disparaging an Australian war hero, Afghan war veteran Scott Jones of the 2nd Commando Regiment. Now, if you're in Australia, you can't find that video on my channel anymore because YouTube took it down after they received a legal complaint. We'll get to what I think about YouTube censorship later on, but first, let me just refresh my memory by rewatching the video on someone else's channel.
People that hear these stories that think it's fucking a bit out of line to be talking about that stuff, I get it. It's funny. He's talking to an absolute fucking psychopath who's responsible for multiple mass graves throughout the Middle East.
So we shot a couple of dudes and the whole village had come out to sort of see what was going on, and naturally they weren't too happy. Then again, who likes seeing your neighbour get shot in the fucking face?
This is Scott Jones, but like all legends called Scott, he prefers a nickname, Skojo. Really, the gist of the video is conveyed in that clip, in that this is a culture of our ex-special forces who we sent to Afghanistan ostensibly to liberate the citizens from the Taliban. Is it any wonder we didn't win the hearts and minds of Afghanistan? We came in with maybe the same degenerate, bloodthirsty psychosis that some Talibs had, but we lacked the austere, pious righteousness that comes with a jihad. Instead, spouting vague libtard principles about women's rights, except these were the guys apparently fighting to bring third-wave feminism to Kandahar. The guys who set up an Instagram page dedicated to posting pictures of diggers at brothels. Now, I'm not the morality police or even the federal police. Slay the house down, Skojo. I mean, maybe I'm behind the times and Skojo and co, after destroying the Taliban, were going to teach the Afghan people about intersectional sex-positive fourth-wave feminism. And no, they weren't. This is the same page that they make fun of gays. Finally, someone tells it like it is. They are homosexuals. So I guess the whole point of that video was to contrast how our institutions treat soldiers that are massive liabilities, as they just pretty much just say very nasty shit about their intentions in going to war, i.e. they only want to go to war to kill, and that they hate the races of the people.
So go out there, pour yourself a Milo, enjoy life, and potentially go over to Ukraine and fucking fight for the Ukrainian people, not because you believe in their cause, but because you like violence, and that's okay. People come around and go, I thought you hated Afghanistan. Why do you have a Pashtun blanket? What does that say? And it says, this blanket is big enough to keep the whole of Afghanistan warm, but I didn't want them to keep warm because I fucking hated them. And it makes me laugh every single time that I see it. So maybe that's a way to deal with your mental health from Afghanistan, is just to fucking laugh at the Afghans every now and then. If you're having a bad day, open up something that made you laugh at the Afghan people and laugh at them, because it's pretty kind of funny what happened.
Our video was comparing that to honourable soldiers that risk it all in order to save lives. I'm not saying Australia's institutions treated Skojo well, just better than some soldiers, because at least Skojo isn't facing life in jail, unlike David McBride, an Australian Army lawyer, a former barrister who leaked evidence of war crimes to the media. David is facing court in Canberra in November, where he is staring down life in prison, to be decided by a jury of his peers. Now, on a completely unrelated note, I just find this so fascinating that I have to shoehorn it into every video that I can. Canberrans, did you know that jury nullification is a thing? Yeah, you can just find someone not guilty if you think the law they broke was unjust. Anyway, now that little bit of neurolinguistic programming is over, come see my live show in Melbourne, Brisbane, Gold Coast, Central Coast, virtually every coast in the fucking country. I'm going there because I'm secretly scared my fiancée will leave me if I don't keep up her expensive lifestyle. Anyway, David McBride's got a biography coming out on the 14th of November, which I've linked in the description, and I highly recommend that you buy it, not only to support David McBride, but just look at him. He's got stories! But enough about that high-stakes legal drama. As I mentioned before, I'm facing my own John Grisham-esque legal thriller. The original video I made about Skojo apparently pissed him off so much that after making thinly veiled death threats,
I'd like to respectfully call upon all meme trolls to get out there and do your best. But at no point should anyone use any threats of violence against the man, because he recently had his house firebombed. You hate to see it. Wasn't me though. Could have been anyone.
After that, Skojo lawyered up and sent an extremely whiny legal threat to me. Now, since I'm a fair and balanced YouTuber, I think you all deserve to hear ScoJo's point of view, so I'm just going to read the letter out to you verbatim. But first off, in a display of my generous nature, let me clear something up. In the original video, I made some claims about how tall ScoJo appeared to be, as he really looks like a leprechaun. We have since independently verified that ScoJo is a respectable height of 6'1 to 6'2. But we still don't have any proof that he isn't a leprechaun on stilts. Anyway, now that egregious slide on this short man's character has been justly rectified, onto the letter. For one, it's not sent by a defamation solicitor, it's sent by a firm called Operational Legal, a firm that seems to specialise in getting compo for cops and soldiers, so I'm not going to be too hard on this firm, but my advice to the solicitor who wrote the letter, Paul James, stick to what you know. Not only because you are severely underexperienced in the field of defamation to be sending out concerns notices, which will become apparent when we read the letter, but come on. Surely your other jobs fighting for compensation for veterans are far more noble than writing whiny letters to YouTubers on behalf of this guy. I respect you so much more than certain defamation specialists. Just stick to the noble work, Paul. Don't go down the same wretched path certain other solicitors named Paul chose. Don't get that reference? Well, you would if you came to my live show. It's ridiculous how much resources are wasted on defamation cases in this country. Lawyers and judges aren't dumb. It pains me to admit this, but they are some of the smartest people in this country. So what a brain drain defamation is. It's like forcing Oppenheimer to work on developing the greatest fireworks show of all time. There's better things that guy could be doing. Judges, instead of ruling on important issues that form the direction of this country, are spending inordinate amounts of time listening to the tantrums of the rich and famous dressed up in verbose prose by morally dyslexic overachievers, who you just know have massive chips on their shoulders as every day they suffer the indignity of advocating for far dumber but far more powerful people than themselves. On that note, let's read the letter that I got sent, shall we? Dear Mr. Shanks Markovina, reconcerns notice pursuant to Part 3, Division 1 of the Defamation Act 2005, New South Wales. We act for Scott Hamilton Jones. Boring. We refer to your publication titled True War Crime Podcast, published on the 22nd of February 2023 on YouTube and found at the URL... I'm not going to read that part out. The publication makes several defamatory imputations of our client. They are false and completely denied by our client. Imputations of concern. The publication asserts the following defamatory imputations about our client while serving or in relation to his service as a member of the Australian Defence Force. Imputations: that our client committed war crimes, that our client violated the Geneva Conventions, that our client killed innocent people in Afghanistan, that our client breached the rules of engagement while deployed in the Afghan war, that our client participated in the practice of blooding, whereby a person under the control of ADF personnel directed younger ADF members as an initiation to unlawfully kill a person detained by the ADF personnel, that our client planted evidence referred to as throwdowns on innocent people killed in the Afghan war to justify their being killed by ADF personnel, that our client carried ICOM radios for the purpose of planting evidence on persons killed in combat, that our client lied and or was dishonest to military lawyers about the circumstances which people were killed in Afghanistan, that our client obtained a tattoo to boast about planting evidence on innocent people killed in the Afghan war. Now, if you've watched the original video, you'll know that I didn't make any of those imputations against ScoJo, and to the extent that some of them are made, they're made by ScoJo himself. But, as pointed out in my earlier in-depth legal analysis, unfortunately for ScoJo, it's impossible to sue himself for defamation, so what ScoJo's solicitor Paul has done is include any mention of anything in the video and claim that it's an imputation against ScoJo. In the video, I mentioned that a government investigation into war crimes committed by the Australian Defence Force, the Brereton report, found that there was a practice of blooding in the ADF, wherein you get a junior soldier to kill a prisoner to give them their first kill. Suddenly, in Paul's letter, that becomes an imputation that ScoJo's done it. I also made reference to Walsh in the original video. By Paul's logic, does that mean that there's an imputation that ScoJo's not in fact a bro, but a debate bro? They both resemble leprechauns. It's a stronger argument, but this letter gets even more desperate. Look at the imputations it claims I made. That our client intentionally misled the Australian Defence Force Investigative Service about the circumstances in which persons were killed by ADF personnel in Afghanistan. That our client was suspected of war crimes by the Inspector General of the ADF's Afghan Inquiry, referred to as the Brereton Inquiry. That he was involved in the killing of 2 Afghan police officers at a vehicle checkpoint. That our client lied to investigators about the circumstances in which 2 Afghan police officers were killed at a vehicle checkpoint. It is insane that lawyers are allowed to play dumb like this in order to intimidate people. Anyone who watched the original video can see that those imputations stem from a man Skojo was interviewing on his podcast, who was admitting to Skojo that he shot 2 uniformed Afghan police officers. Listen.
If anyone's worked a gun before, they obviously fire upwards if you've got a good grip on it, and basically just ripped him up and took half his head off, and the bloke behind him copped the rounds that went straight through him.
Yep.
And
Skewered him.
yeah, mate, it was the old enfilade fire, but real close, you know.
Beautiful.
But yeah, so he went down like a sack of shit, and the bloke on the back, the bloke with the front, obviously had half his head gone, so he was out.
Yeah.
He'd gone to Allah.
Yep.
And the bloke on the back started yelling out, "Policia, policia," or whatever the fuck whatever their word for
Yep.
police
Police.
police was, but that's what he was trying to yell out.
Yep.
And we're like, "Ah, fuck." We knew at that stage that we'd just hit 2 cops.
More lawyer logic. For the purposes of threatening me, not only does any mention of anything become a possible imputation against Skojo, but if I comment on a clip of an interview, the actions of the interviewee become the actions of the interviewer. So by this logic, if I play a clip of some journo interviewing Biden, the journo should be able to threaten to sue me for imputing that they're an ice cream loving senior citizen that says things like, "I was in Delaware once, Jack. I remember Delaware had a big cowboy hat. We'd all say, you better take that hat off." Anyway, happy Thanksgiving, folks. All this makes the concerns notice defective from the outset, but you know what makes this concerns notice? Just not even a concerns notice. There's no particulars, in that there are no specific lines or bits of the video identified by the letter that would make the basis of a defamation suit against me. Just vague, imprecise accusations about the video, making all these awful imputations about Skojo. The reason for this is because, to the extent Skojo is defamed, he did it all himself. The parts of my video that are the most damaging to Skojo's reputation are these clips.
No matter how heavy your pack is before a mission, there's always room for a throwdown. Or 2. Your RSM won't let you drink on deployment. Fill this up with a litre worth of vodka. Or improvise, adapt, and overcome. Yeah, fuck oath, Cold Loaf. Hang on a second though. Yeah, you're good.
And as pointed out by my lawyer Xenophon Davis in their response, Skojo shared the video before it was even publicly published, and it was still in its draft state on my Patreon. Subscribe today to see early videos like this one, and actually not this one would get shared again, sorry patrons. If there was something that apparently seriously defamed you, why would you share it everywhere?
So yeah, get in those comments, boys. Fire up.
Especially a video as harmful as Skojo's lawyer's purport mine was. Listen to this. Harm caused by the defamatory matters. The publication of these matters has or is likely to cause serious harm to our client's reputation, including subjection to public disrepute, ridicule, contempt, and odium, economic loss of employment income, loss of opportunities for future employment, estrangement from family and friends, severe emotional and mental distress, isolation from the defence community including veteran groups and events, being banned from access to defence establishments, reducing his opportunity to develop relationships with other veterans, loss of business opportunity in relation to potential defence industry work. The damage to the reputation of our client gives rise to a reasonable expectation of a significant sum of damages were this matter to proceed to court. Should our client commence action in defamation regarding the matters complained of, he would be undoubtedly entitled to aggravated damages. As previously noted, the matters our client complains of were targeted and malicious and aimed to defame our client in the eyes of his friends, work, colleagues, and the community. The imputations are blatantly false, and the publication has caused our client to suffer humiliation. Humiliation. Loss of business opportunities. Skojo, just admit it. You're a clown. It's okay, I am one too, but you can't put on a clown show and then complain that someone reported that your shoes were comically large and water sprayed out of your pocket flower. And as for severe and emotional distress, you must be a masochistic clown, like the one in Slipknot, because you shared the video multiple times. Before I forget that, let me make this point again. It's very unfortunate you can't sue yourself, Scott. But if you could, I wonder what you demand. Because this is what he demanded from me. Undertakings. We are instructed to demand that you undertake within 48 hours of receiving this notice, permanently remove the publication from YouTube and any other platform, website, or application on which it is published. Not republish the imputations in any form. Publish a full and unqualified apology subject to approval by our client on YouTube and Twitter. Posted under the relevant Friendly Geordies account. I kind of do want to do that one as a gag. Send a signed copy of that apology letter addressed to our client to this office. Why? Payment of our client's reasonably incurred legal costs. Well, depends on what you're charging, mate. Up to the time of his acceptance, if any, of an offer to make amends, should you make one. If you fail to comply with the above, our client reserves his right to commence legal proceedings without further notice to you. These demands are a far cry from ScoJo's original response, which was to whine about free speech, direct his fans to my video and claim that I wanted his Instagram and podcast shut down, as they were some of the only channels disproving the lefty narrative that Australians committed war crimes in Afghanistan.
A lot of people in our media that don't agree with my opinions on the fact that the war crimes that have been alleged against Australian Special Forces is actually bullshit. Now, because they don't like that rhetoric, they preach for free speech, but they don't actually want that. They don't actually want people with opposing views to share their views on what they think actually happened over there. So what happened is, just last night, a individual by the name of Jordan Shanks decided to do a podcast on my podcast, utilizing all of my content, photos, videos, and jokes as a story that he wants to promote that I'm an absolute piece of shit.
He lives in upside down world. Can you believe this? ScoJo reckons his podcast and Instagram exonerates the culture of Australian Special Forces in Afghanistan, and because of that, I want it censored. Yes, that's why I made a 30-minute video about your pod, playing long segments and entire Instagram videos, because I didn't want anyone to see them. Because I'm so malicious, I needed to take down the one digger telling the truth about Australia's involvement in the Afghan war. There'd be less cognitive dissonance if a serial killer objected to his snuff film being played in court for the reason that the police don't want him circulating any more snuff films because they just show how innocent he is. At least the serial killer would be right about one thing: the police do want to stop him making snuff films. ScoJo, I don't want to be the censor of you. To me, there's nothing better than having the freedom to say whatever you want as it ventilates views that are as close to the truth about this war as we are ever going to get. I encourage you to podcast and post as much as possible. It's a shame you want to censor me. The more Australians hear veterans discuss war in an unfiltered context, no matter what they're saying, the better. You couple ScoJo or David McBride's anecdotes with the fact that the West failed to complete almost every stated objective of the war in Afghanistan, and the fact that over 40,000 civilians died in the conflict, and you get a more compelling picture of the futility of our military entanglements than any politician or general will ever grant. And up until very recently, the Court of Public Opinion has been the only court Australia's conduct in Afghanistan has gone to trial in, and I guess, subsequently, defamation cases, which is a shocking indictment on Australia's elite, demonstrating a massive collective failure of our political, military and legal class, as when time came to stand up for all these principles that the elites learn about in their expensive university degrees, who stood up? Our politicians? The most concern our former Defence Minister Peter Dutton displayed was when there was a chance these allegations could damage our relationship with the US. Our military leaders? Well, they've always unilaterally absolved themselves of any guilt. How were they to know any better? Defamation lawyers? They saw these war crimes allegations as a way to make a buck off the bruised egos of damaged soldiers. One of the only men who stood up and did the right thing is now facing trial. In November, David McBride will become the first Australian soldier on trial for his conduct in the Afghan war. Not because he did anything wrong, no, because he attempted to force Australia's institutions to do the right thing. So congratulations to Patricia McDonald SC, the barrister, and all the other lawyers that picked up the brief of prosecuting McBride. You guys will be running the first criminal trial stemming from Australia's conduct in Afghanistan. What an honour! I'm sure it was a very competitive process, and all of Australia's top legal minds were tripping over themselves to prosecute a barrister, a former colleague of theirs, who exposed war crimes. I'm sure you're going to be proud to have that on your record and conscience for the rest of your life. But back to more important matters. Me. Not long after ScoJo sent this threat to me, and presumably to YouTube, the video was taken down due to a defamation complaint. And I'm not usually one to whine about YouTube, they pay my bills, but My lawyer sent a letter back to ScoJo's lawyers rebuking their threat, and we never heard from them again. So we appealed the YouTube takedown complaint, pointing this out and pointing out that to the extent anyone is defamed in the video, it's not done by me. It's done by themselves. And that is in the public interest to have this video up. But the video's still down, which is a shame because I really do want people to see you, ScoJo. I need to emphasize this again. I don't want to censor you. So if I can't have my video about you up, I make this appeal instead. Please keep posting, Scott. Please restart your podcast. Post as many Instagram reels as your heart desires. I want as many lawyers, politicians, judges, military leaders to see your videos, ScoJo, because don't take this the wrong way. When they look at you, they're forced to reckon with their massive collective failures. They created you, and they deserve to know who you are.
So, again, none of my friends have been charged with anything, but your friends have. Your friend David McBride is about to go to jail for a very long time, it looks like, if you read the articles that are being published in the news, and that's a damn shame. While most of my friends, we're going to be at the beach, sinking piss.
Before we go out, because this might be the last video about McBride before the McBride trial, do you remember Troy Stolz? He was another whistleblower that was to do with Clubs New South Wales and Pokies. He donated 10 grand to McBride. What a legend. Anyway, he's got a couple of words for you, so take a listen.
Good afternoon, Friendly Geordies, viewers, fans. Thanks to the team at Friendly Geordies for having me back on. My name's Troy Stolz. Been a few months since we've done a few videos and I've been on Friendly Geordies, so it's fantastic to be back on, and I just want to thank everyone again for the support during my battle, which went on for 3.5 years. And without the support of all their Friendly Geordie viewers and all my other supporters, I would have been in big trouble. So that certainly gave me some hope, and I can't thank you guys enough for the donations that certainly helped me getting the lawyers and giving me some hope, because it's pretty lonely and financially devastating path to have to go down as, you know, one as a whistleblower. Today, I just want to get on board and let you guys know I've just recently made a $10,000 donation to David McBride's campaign. Please, if you can, get behind David's campaign. We're in court in Canberra on the 13th of November. Hopefully get to see a few of you down there. What David's done for this country is so important, and right now David needs our support, from financially to, you know, someone just to have a chat to, and he shouldn't be going down this path. So if you can get behind David, and that's why I'm behind David. He's a mate. He's done the right thing, and as a fellow whistleblower, we want to encourage more whistleblowers to stand up when we need them to stand up. Thank you, David. Thank you, Friendly Geordies, for everything you do, and hopefully I'll see you guys down in Canberra. Still battling cancer, but I'm still here. So have a great day, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.